singing. In some of our K through 5 classes, some of that movement is the traffic stop game, and they learn some of the other life skills. So this doesn't have to break the bank, and there's some really cool things that are happening I've learned from some of the educators out there. So I'm going to give you the third and final poll question. Liz, why don't you go ahead and read off what the last question is, and while you're doing that, I'll let you read the question, and then
Great. Well, after all that great information, let's find out what our audience thinks are the research benefits of activity permissive learning environments. And you can make your selections.
So while you're filling those out, think about some of the elements we talked about. Yeah, are we fidgeting? Is there student engagement? What about test scores? Do my classrooms, are they more manageable? So what did we find, Liz? Here, I'm kind of running short on time, so I'll need to speed it up. What were the answers?
Looks like we have a smart audience. They chose all of the above.
Ding, 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 ding. You're right. All the above. You guys are so smart. So for the first time, so take a look on the bottom. I've cited this reference. In October of 2016, that was Halloween of last year, first time we've got the first study to look at a large multi-school, multi-grade level cohort of classroom management, more engagement, I think those two are linked, positive health for kids, cognitive functioning, and academic achievement. Let's take a deep dive into each of those in a little bit more detail. So when we looked at one group of 374 elementary school kids wearing what we call research level Fitbits, we found that the overweight kids got the biggest benefit. They were actually the ones who needed the most, and they got the most. That's really cool. Here's an example. So on the left-hand side, the blue bar, and so BMI category is category 1, category 2, or Category 1 are ectomorphs, they're skinny kids. Category 2 are moderate to somewhat overweight kids, and category 3 are flat out obese kids. And on the left-hand side, you see the mean intervals on task. This is active engagement. So our highest engagement, if we just look at the green line, it's category 1 and 2 are statistically not different. Our obese kids are not as engaged. But we look at the blue line, which is the stand bias desks, not the control group. The control is standard desks. Green is standard desk. Blue is standing desks. The treatment group, the obese kids outperformed their skinny mini counterparts in a seated desk. Over the course of a couple of years, we actually had parents come, and the researcher, Dr. Mark Bennett, said, complaining that their kids weren't given the opportunity to participate in the standing desks because they were the control group. Dr. Bennett actually found out that this was actually about a 5-point BMI, body mass index, reduction. So instead of seeing a 2-point increase, we saw a 3-point decline. That's cool. That's 5 body mass index points, which adds up to about 5 miles a week. 5 miles a week for kids. Well, that's really cool. So this BMI level, about 15% more calories burned. That's really cool. And there's the calories burned. And we looked at grade 2 and grade 3 and grade 4. You can see it's about 15%. Again, blue, stand bias desks, and green, you know what? We're not asking, those were the seated desks. And the stand bias desks did have a chair available for them, so they could alternate between. So that's really cool. So we see this whole idea of focus and attention. And the really exciting thing is that children who were overweight and obese saw the largest improvements than our normal weight counterparts. You know, I was talking to Dr. Bennett, and he really shared with me some interesting insight. He said, maybe overweight kids aren't less capable academically. Maybe they just need to be more active and better hardware for their software. To be twice as engaged than their normal weight peers, that's shocking. And you know what? We'll later find out through some of the work by Dr. Raja Mehta that has led to up to 7 minutes per hour of extra time that each teacher has in the classroom. If you add that up over the course of the day, that's like an extra period, an extra classroom time. And part of that is giving kids the ability to focus and attention. Here you see highlighting one of the cool features called the fidget bar. You swing this bar back and forth, and it gives kids a chance to sort of get out some of that energy. And so you can see that there are chairs available. They can stand, they can have a foot rail to prop up against. All these elements lead us to the gold standard, which is how are they performing? And now I'm gonna finish with this, that the data is in. Dr. Mehta found that kids' neurocognitive test scores were up 7 to 14%. High school kids, that's 7 minutes per hour of more engaged brains. That adds up significantly. What would you do if you had a whole extra class time each day of 7 minutes per hour? If you have 6 contacts, that's 45. That's an extra class. And so when we see how these kids perform and we see what benefits they get to think on their feet, and when we look at the summary of all the data, if you pile it up, and this comes from the Stand to Learn website, that they've been 5 years with 2,500 kids in 36 classrooms, a lot of them done in a multicultural environment, Bryan, Texas. Calorie burn rate is up, student engagement's up, ACT Aspire tests and scores are up, classroom distractions are down, and classroom management is up. So the one question you might say, this sounds great, Josh, but I just can't get my administrator to support this. Well, there is hope. I'm going to follow up and answer some of the questions that you posted and give you some resources. One of them right now is called standupkids.org. It's a not-for-profit organization started by Kelly and Juliet Starrett. I'm an active member in that group. It's basically the mission. They actually co-founded CrossFit. And their goal is to get every public school child at a standing desk in the next decade. And so we're going to fight this pandemic, which is what it really is, of sedentary lifestyles and activity to better reflect 21st century educational goals. So it's really exciting. I ask you to check it out. They actually have matching donor choice funding sources. So if you're a public school, you can have access to that. I also know at the end, I've asked Liz to mention there are some DEMCO resources that you can actually tie into as well. So I hope you've seen that activity permissive learning environments, an apple a day, there is significant evidence to indicate that sedentary lifestyles and the way kids are learning are some of the forces in play. Scientists tell us that we know more. We know that the stand bias, some leaning and perching seating, giving kids options and choices, some of those 3 key lessons, right? So the way we're teaching kids is changing, right? Active environments, the whole idea of these more open and flexible work environments, and some of those 5 benefits are really important. I mentioned that I personally experienced a transformation moving to a more activity permissive learning environment, and I'm just a big kid. On the left is the before, 210 pounds and about a 39-inch waistline. As an ergonomist who's worked closely for 25 years helping develop a lot of the products that are out there, the last 5 years, I've gotten up off my backside, and I can tell you today, I'm a 34-inch waist at 180 pounds, and for a guy who has an AARP card, that's really cool. So it's not just good for kids in the classroom, it's good for our educators and good for ergonomists as well. I know there's always people that want to know more. I put together 16 of the best resources and references for you, and I want to open up the opportunity to ask any questions. So, Liz, were there any questions from any of the group that we've identified?
We do have a few questions, Josh. Thank you so much for that presentation. We have a few questions from our audience. The first one is, could you tell me what's the best approach for different styles of users in the same space? So I think what they're looking for is maybe students who might prefer to sit in different types of seating.
That's a great question. So if I heard you, what's the best way to, so I look at this like how a community planner would look at any environment. So in my town, there's a residential area, there's commercial district, there's warehouse, and there's industrial area in Ann Arbor. I think schools and classrooms and learning commons are much the same way. I would pick a collaborative area. I would do it in 4 areas. I would a collaboration area where we engage kids to talk and interact. I would have a heads down quiet learning area. I would have a more soft seating social area that they could have, and then a directed learning space. So again, give kids the choice. In many cases, furniture and that's flexible, that can reconfigure, is critical to that. But there's no one right way. And remember, the best posture is your next posture. Great question. That's tough. Time for one more?
Thank you, Josh. I think we're actually going to have to wrap it up for today, but I do want to remind everyone that they will get the full Q&A emailed to them next week with a link to the archived webinar. So those resources will all be available to you. And I do want to thank you, Josh, for sharing your knowledge and your research today. And I hope that everyone has been inspired. I know I've been inspired to get out of my desk seat more often, much more often now. And as I said, a recording of the webcast will be available on Demco Ideas and Inspiration website, and you'll be receiving an email with that. And you'll also have resources like the Demco Free Grant Search Database that will be listed there for you. You'll also be receiving a survey in our to let us know how we did. So if you could take a few moments to give us your feedback, that would be great. And I do want to announce our lucky winners today of our Safeco active seating products. The winner of the Safeco Runts Ball Chair is Mary B. from Bethalto, Illinois. And the winner of the Safeco Zenergy Swivel Ball Chair is Christine E. from Chappaqua, New York. And the winner of the Safeco Twixt Active Seating Chair is Mary Kay W. from White House, Texas. And congratulations to all of our winners. And thank you again to everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon.